You're listening to the Jam Press Show, all about movies. And today, my guest is award-winning director-producer Ivy Meeropol, and we're going to be talking about her award-winning documentary entitled "Ask E. Jean." Welcome to the show, Ivy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. Th I did not know much about E. Jean Carroll. I mean, I knew obviously about her lawsuit against Trump, but other than that, I didn't know very much about her. I knew she was an advice columnist. So this really opened my eyes to
Yeah.
what an amazing woman she truly is. And I was just taken back by her story and just such a
Yes.
powerful woman. So, how did you come to this project?
Well, so I, like you, didn't know much about it. I mean, I honestly, I think I vaguely knew that she was a beloved advice columnist. But when I saw her photo on the cover of New York Magazine in June of 2019, and where they published an excerpt from her book, and this is where the story of what happened at Bergdorf Goodman came out. I did not recognize her. I did not know her. So I was very struck by the way she told that story, and I immediately wanted to know more about her. And when I started digging, I said, she's a phenomenal person. I mean, she just, through sheer force of will and talent, she had like broken through into the male-dominated magazine world in New York City and specifically male magazines like Esquire, Outside, and Playboy. And she was writing major pieces. I mean, she's a gonzo journalist like Hunter S. Thompson, and she was referred to as like the female Hunter S. Thompson. And I just thought, wow, she's just such an interesting figure. And just such a joyful, funny person as well. So there was something about that combination with talking about something so awful as sexual assault that felt just new to me. That someone, that and someone of her age, frankly, we don't hear very often from a 75-year-old. Now she's 83, but she was 75 when she decided to tell this story.
I wonder, was she, because it's around the time of the Me Too movement, is that what encouraged her to finally reveal her story?
Yes, actually, it was precisely what happened, and it really, it's a pretty dramatic story that I wanted to have in the film, but it was one of those things you have to lose your darling sometimes. But it's a great story because she was on the road reporting for a book idea she had that was called "What Do We Need Men For,"
I know, I
and it was
love that
kind of
title.
I know she always comes up with these great titles. And she was driving across the country and stopping in towns named after women. It was kind of, just like it was a fun, bit of a gimmick idea for a book, but it wasn't anything that heavy. But she was asking people, strangers, what do we need men for? And just kind of collecting. And that's kind of things she did. But while she was doing this, the Harvey Weinstein stories, the Me Too movement was breaking. All of that was breaking, and she could not stop reading about it. She kept pulling over the side of the road, she said, to read the latest revelations. And she just, I guess, it was the stories coming forward, but it was also that it was having an effect, and these powerful men were being brought down. And so because she's still an advice columnist, because of the Me Too movement, many of her readers were coming to her and saying, E. Jean, what do I do? I was assaulted. I was raped. I don't, telling their stories. And she started to really feel like she'd never been fully honest with, she cared more about being honest with her readers first than she cared about being honest with herself, which is interesting. And that's really what moved her. And she just started, that book became a combination of that trip across the country and her list of hideous men she started drawing up. And as we talk about, like many women have lists of hideous men. And that's where it started. And Trump, as she says, went down on the list.
Wow. 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 I'm sure when you go through something like that, that's rather traumatic, there is a tendency, I think, especially maybe that generation. I mean, now I think the younger generation coming up because of the Me Too movement and everything else is more
Yeah,
aware and would, immediately know what to do. But that era, 30, 40 years
absolutely.
ago or longer, she's right. She just laughed it off, which, was kind of amazing when you hear that today. But that's the truth. And I think it sounded like it was buried deep within her that she probably just tried to, camouflage it over, which a lot of people do with a traumatic experience. They kind of
Exactly.
push it down and, kind of try to forget about it. And yet underneath it all, it's affecting, you as a person. And obviously it did affect her as a person, but you don't always know how it's affecting you because you've buried it deep inside.
That's right. And it's a really good point to bring up being that just the fact that she was honest and is honest about that she was laughing,
Yeah. Mhm.
is that's a really big deal. I mean, we're not allowed to even say that, right? It's just such a
No.
and but yet it is so relatable. So many women can say, yeah, of course, that would be a way to try to stop something from happening or change the tone. And so she's very her honesty around these issues was something I hadn't seen before, or I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, no, I would like to now I want to know more. I want to, dig deeper into to her after
Yeah.
watching this documentary because she's a fascinating woman. This film and in the research, this is a film about truth, accountability and resilience. And that's she's so brave to have come out. She was very brave to do this, to actually, go to court. And for a president at the time and to press these charges was pretty phenomenal. You have to be a strong person to do that, man or woman, to do something like that. And that's what is amazing to watch her go through this process. Now, you had incredible access. So let's talk a little bit about that, the access you got.
Yeah, sure. Well, so when I first approached Eugene, she wasn't interested in making a film, and there were other filmmakers coming to her. Um, and so I just kept pushing, and then she watched a film of mine, and so she was open to talking to me. And pretty quickly she was able, she just like in the film where you see, well, I should say, for your listeners, in the film she talks about how when she first met Robbie Kaplan, and then Robbie said, well, we could sign, we could talk about working together. She said, let's do it. Let's sign the papers. And that's so Eugene, once she's in, she's in. So that's what happened with me. Let's do it, Ivy. Let's make this film. So I was able to, go visit her at her home. I went into her storage unit. I kept wanting more access to her storage unit. And she kept saying, you have plenty, you have plenty. And I'm like, there's so much more in there. I was just like, I still think about what else is in there. But as it was, I got a wonderful access, great access to her, except that at a certain point when the trials came under, because remember when I first started with her, she didn't know, no one knew if she would actually get to court. Um, and then all of that happened. So there was a long period of time where I didn't think this film was going to be continue because the
Mhm.
trials had to take precedence. And it was too important, for her to be, me to be following her and trying to film things while it was so much as you see in the film.
Right.
So one of the greatest things that I was able to collect, which is part of access, which is, the trust that develops, is that Robbie and Eugene signed over the video depositions.
That's what I was going to get to next. Go on.
Yes, because
Yes. Yes.
nobody would have ever seen these, right?
Right.
They're in a vault somewhere, and unless Eugene and her attorney Robbie had given me the explicit permission to use in the film, they would have never been seen, and that was an enormous just trust, exercise and trust. I mean, I'm still so moved by it, and it to me that the film just takes off because you get to experience what women go through when they are actually make it to court and have to tell their stories and have to be asked so many kind of, just insulting questions. And anyway, so that's my, that was, so the access question. Yeah, I had great, I mean, they trusted me, and I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, that's the part of the film that's um, so difficult to watch the deposition, and it
Yes.
really is. And you can see her, really having a difficult time reliving what she
Yeah,
went through, how difficult that was, and the inane questions I do ask. I mean, seriously,
I know. I
what
know.
year?
Have
What
you
year?
ever had acting classes?
Yes, yes, I have.
That's the thing.
Yeah. And I was sexually harassed a couple of times in my lifetime by my bosses. And the first time around I was told don't say anything.
Hmm.
Don't say anything. It's his word against your word. This is again back in the 80s.
Yes.
And then when it happened again later on, I was prepared for it. So I had kept
Mhm.
everything. I had all the documentation and everything out. So it was a totally different because of the first time, it was his word against mine. And then after that, when it happened again, I was like, okay, I am going to make sure I have all of everything I absolutely need. So
Yeah.
settled out of court, but that was, still, I didn't have to go through what she went through. It wasn't rape, it was harassment, so
Right.
workplace
Right.
harassment, different, but
Yeah, it's
still,
different, but also, it can have, it can really have an effect. And
yes,
I mean, so, these are things but that's the kind of thing that Eugene in the past would have said, just, sweep it under the rug,
right, right,
just to get where she needed to be, you know.
right, right. Was she, I mean, her background is amazing. I mean, here she was, what, Miss Cheerleader of
Yes,
America or something like that.
she was Miss Cheerleader USA. She won
USA.
nationally ranked cheerleader out of Indiana University. And one of the best archival pieces that we found was her appearance on the old show To Tell the Truth.
That's what I was going to get to next too. So you're ahead of me on this interview,
Sorry, well,
Ivy. That's
you
good.
you're
We're
leading
thinking.
me to it.
We're
Well,
thinking. Delight.
yeah. Well, yeah, so but I love all that because it's so to me it also shows like she's such an int she did all these kind of traditional feminine like the girl things, right? That we call it, right? The sorority sister, beauty queen, cheerleader. I like to say to people though, who don't think about it this way, and I didn't either when I was growing up. I was very dismissive of cheerleaders. Oh, it's so like, they just care about their looks and it's like it's so, not serious, whatever. When Eugene was younger, that was the only she's an athlete. That was the
Hmm.
only option. And you see her leaping and jumping. She wasn't just doing it because she wants to be the pretty girl, or the one in the cute outfits. It was she's an athlete.
Right.
Anyway, that's just an aside. But
Right.
so
Right.
I'm so interested in how she went from all that very traditional feminine roles and married early. And then, but she kept writing and writing and writing. And then the minute she gets one story place, she is off to New York City and starts her life like from the bottom. I mean, she has no one in New York, and she's from Indiana. Her whole family's from the Midwest, and she made her way. And it's just, yeah, it's a really exciting story to follow.
It is, but I was fascinated. Her mother actually was a very strong woman, and I
Yes.
she was raised with a strong what was I prototype, not that, but
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
who, she could emulate. And her mother raised her that way to be a strong,
that's right.
woman and be resilient. And so that helps a lot,
Exactly.
when you are raised that way and you have that model to emulate,
Hmm.
in
Yeah,
her
I
mother.
think that's right.
Because her mother was very involved in Republican politics.
I know, isn't that funny?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's a
is.
funny detail. But
It is.
yeah, her mother was a strong personality and very outspoken and, was, even though, yes, she was the housewife and raising the children, you get the sense that she was she was in charge.
Right. She was in charge. Well, the mothers were, even though we,
Yeah, right, right. Whether the
fathers,
husband knew or
yeah.
not, or the
Yeah, the
fathers knew or
fathers
not.
were off, making money, and the mothers were raising the many children. And also, she was the
Right.
oldest. I think that makes a difference too. Being
Yes.
first, sometimes,
Yeah.
personalities, as they say, where you are in the hierarchy and the family, So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, again, she gave you credible access. Now, how many years did it take you to film this?
Oh gosh. I mean, like I said, we were stopping and starting quite a bit, so it's not consecutive, but it was 6 years.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
yeah, and I made a whole nother film in the middle of this, because I had to make a living and keep working. But yeah, well, the long break that we had where they were just the trials were taking place, and I didn't know if we could pick it up again. Yeah, so 6 years, but it was also extremely long edit process. It's a very complicated film to edit. And I'm so proud that we got it right. I feel, I wonderful editors who came in and really, I figured out it was just the tone. How do you tell a story that's so much fun on one hand and so, tough and as you say, hard to watch at times. How do you balance that?
And I think you did an excellent job with that because there's a great juxtaposition. It's not you didn't tell the story, and, in a straight line.
Linearly, yeah.
Linearly, yes.
Linear, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. I was having a hard time saying it,
Like
so
that.
that's
That's
why.
okay.
All right. Good. It's a hard word to say.
It is.
You kind of, you go bits and pieces and flash back, and I like that. What was
Well,
the?
oh,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and once we realized that the depositions could also be used to have her, like, she's telling her story also in the deposition, so then you can throw back in time. That became a great device for us. That
It
was,
did. Yeah, it did. And what was the most difficult part of the shoot for you? And then I want to ask you the follow-up question is what was the most difficult part of the shoot for E. Jean?
oh, wow. That's a good question. I've never had that one. Okay. The most difficult part of, well, I mean, overall, I would say I mean, I don't know if this makes sense, but just production wise for shoot the uncertainty, like I just didn't have a solid, like are am I gonna get Eugene today? Is something gonna happen? Is Robbie gonna say, nope, we're done, we're not working, so I had a lot of and raising the money. I mean,
Oh,
that's the create the business side of thing, right? The create like and that this film was really a challenge. People were not so they didn't either they didn't see that what it could be and they wondered who is this? She's, older lady, she's not that famous. She's not, then just not having a vision for it and maybe me not doing a good enough job saying what the vision was, but there was also the trepidation around this subject matter. And so that was very hard. We didn't really start getting enough money to actually edit. It's one thing to shoot. That
mhm.
doesn't cost as much, especially if you're just a small crew. We always had an all-female crew with Eugene and just
Love
a few of us, and it was great. And she loved everyone that I would bring to her. But the edit, that's in post is when it starts to get very expensive. And it wasn't until the summer of 2023 that we started to get close to having the money to do it. So I met her in 2019. That tells you how long. So I
And
would say that was hard for me because I wanted to focus on the creative,
mm,
and there was a lot of other stuff that had to happen first.
but you had some great people who helped produce this. Great
Oh my God.
and Sheila Nevins, we all know who she is.
Yes.
Some great,
Yes.
great people that came aboard perhaps later, it sounds like.
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes things have to get started so that people can see what you're doing, because
Right.
it's in my head until it's until we can get it out there. But
Right.
for E. Jean, that's a good question. The hardest part for her, I think, uh, she enjoyed our shoots when we went to her house. She
Mhm.
enjoyed that
Mhm.
time. And I didn't talk to her about, sorry, I'm not really answering your question, but it's making me, it's reminding me of, I didn't ask her about the assault or about her hideous men, really, in my early interviews. I wanted to know everything else about her. And thank goodness, because I never got to get with her again. And so
Oh,
I had this instinct where I was like, I didn't want her to have to talk about all of that. She'd written it in her book. She'd been on all these shows before I even met her, news talking about it. And it was like the whole goal of the film is to show who else she is aside from those 3 minutes in that dressing room.
right, right.
Right. So that was a pleasure, for her, I think, and for me. And, we had a good time doing that. But maybe the harder part for her is later, even, she loves the film, but it's hard for her to watch.
I can imagine.
Brings up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've been at a lot of film festivals all over.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I
Yeah.
don't know if she's been at all of them, but Telluride is where you
No, she did
premiere.
do a lot of the early ones, and she watched the film each time because she wanted to experience it with an audience, but then it would take a toll.
Well, this is the kind of film you can watch over and over again, and because you're going to miss parts of it, you're going to go like, "Oh, I didn't," there's a lot to it. So it
Yeah.
is one that you could watch and delve into on a deeper level each time you do watch it. Um, I do want to talk to you. I'm going to switch topics for a minute. I
Sure.
want to talk. You were a Sundance Institute fellow.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about what that, so our audience knows what that is for people who don't aren't
Oh,
familiar with what a Sundance Institute fellow
interesting. Yeah.
does.
Okay. So that was many years ago. I was making a film called Indian Point, which is about a nuclear power plant near where I live in the Hudson Valley. It's right outside New York City. And I was trying to raise money for it. The Sundance Institute had given me, a grant and then had invited me to be a fellow, which means they bring you to the festival. It's really an honor. They bring you to the festival and cover your costs and then set you up on a whole bunch of meetings with a lot of industry people so that you can pitch your work. And so it's like, I mean, it was like speed dating. I'd be at these tables with different potential funders and producers and all different people, kind of just presenting my film. So that's that, and then lots of meetings and kind of events, and we're the fellows hanging out with each other. It's really a networking opportunity,
Mhm.
that does yield real results.
And it's very prestigious to be able to do
Yes.
that. And then you also worked on Death Row Stories, which was executive produced by Robert Redford. Can you talk? Do you have any
Yeah.
good Robert Redford stories? Anything?
Well, I don't, an executive producer is often at that level, was
Right.
not involved in the that show, like the production of that show is more like, his name. But
Mhm.
I did meet, Mr. Redford at Sundance when my first film, Aired on Execution, premiered there, which was an incredible experience. And he came right over to me. It's like this director's brunch, and I was such a new, I was just, in awe of everything that I was experiencing. And he came directly over to me and he said, "I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that your film is powerful and wonderful, and congratulations." I mean, he really was, he took, and that was, I mean, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, quite amazing. We miss him. We miss him a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet him too, and he's a lovely man. So where can people see Ask E. Jean, Ivy?
Well, so the best thing to do is for people all over the country, go over, I mean, look at our website, askegenefilm.com, because we're adding new theaters every day, but we're premiering tomorrow at the IFC Center in New York City, where we hope the film will have a nice long run. But right now, we're going to be there. I'll be there through the weekend doing Q&As, and then I go to Los Angeles, and we open at the New Art in Los Angeles on May 29th, and on and on and on. And for the next couple of months, I'm gonna, everywhere I can be to help get this film out, I will.
Great. Well, everyone, go to askegenefilm.com. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating documentary. It's a great piece of history on many, many levels, too. And you'll see an amazing woman. I mean, she was absolutely stunningly beautiful, and still is. She still is.
Oh, she
She's
is.
aged beautifully. You know, she does so. Well, Ivy, it's such a pleasure having you on the show. I wish you much success with Ask E Gene. And I look forward to having you back on the show with your next project.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.